From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where narratives collide, perspectives matter, and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders. I am Omar Khalid. During the hour that will follow, we'll try to decipher stories that concern the entire world and engulf the entire world, and of course talk about things that matter in this changing global narrative. We'll begin with what we call the top stories of the day, or in other words, region lines. We begin from the Middle East, where delegations from Hamas, Israel and the United States are all set to hold talks in Egypt to push to end the nearly 2-year-long Gaza conflict. Meanwhile, Israeli attacks on Gaza have continued unabated, with over 100 Palestinians, including 8 seekers, killed since dawn. In South Asia, Pakistan's military issues a strong warning to India, condemning recent proactive, rather provocative and jingoistic remarks by senior Indian security officials. In a statement released by the military's media wing, Inter-Services Public Relations, the Pakistan Army warns that any future conflict between the two nuclear-armed states could lead to cataclysmic devastation. The ISPR says this time the Pakistan Army will shatter the myth of geographic immunity by striking the farthest reaches of Indian territory. And lastly, the U.S. government shutdown enters its 6th day as Republicans and Democrats remain deadlocked over funding, with the White House warning of mass federal layoffs. The Senate is all set to vote on rival funding bills, although neither is expected to pass. We will begin with our leading story from the Middle East. New diplomatic efforts, ladies and gentlemen, are once again being tested in Palestine. The proposed 20-point peace plan has reignited global debate. Is this a framework for lasting peace, or just another pause for this cycle of human tragedy? Amid shifting alliances and renewed calls for accountability, Palestine stands now at a crossroads between resilience and reform, between survival and sovereignty. Joining us now is the Palestinian Minister for Foreign Affairs and Expatriates, Dr. Varsen Aghabekian Shahin, to help us better understand how the Palestinian leadership views the path ahead. Thank you very much, Dr. Varsen, to have joined us.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
The pleasure is all ours, Excellency. Minister, after months of immense suffering in Gaza, we are finally seeing some kind of light ahead of this tunnel with this 20-point peace plan. Is this a genuine plan towards justice, or is it just an attempt to manage the conflict rather than resolve it?
Well, we hope it is a genuine plan, and if it was close to it, we need to make it a genuine plan. And we appreciate any effort that will bring us closer to an end of this aggression, and we are ready to work with all stakeholders towards that end goal. The priority for us is to end the killings, the starvation, the injuries. As you said, 24 months of absolute brutality and crimes committed against people in Gaza, with thousands being killed and hundreds of thousands being injured, and God knows how many still under the rubble. So for us, this 20-point peace plan has some key points that we need to take further and to look at, maybe, let's say, favorably, because it talked about the no displacement of the Palestinian people, no to annexation. It talked about the release of hostages and release of some of our prisoners in Israeli detention camps. It talked about the reconstruction of Gaza, and it alluded to a horizon leading to a Palestinian state. These are some of the positive points that we need to build on. But there are, of course, details that we need to inject and elaborate when we further discuss this peace plan, and those needs and details need to focus on how we tie this to international law, because this plan cannot be divorced from international law and what we have achieved until now through international law, and it needs to look at the integrity of the occupied Palestinian territory, or today the occupied state of Palestine, as one integral part, meaning Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem as one, and of course tied with the New York Declaration and whatever laws and governing principles are in effect on the West Bank, because the Gaza Strip cannot be divorced from the West Bank. And of course, for us as Palestinians, the most important thing is the role of the Palestinian Authority in all of this.
I agree with you on that. The most important role should be that of the Palestinian Authority, but there are talks of another authority being put into place with Tony Blair at the helm of affairs. What's your take on him?
I think I'm not going to speak on the people right now. Let's focus on the principle. If the principle is correct and the items by which the framework will develop is acceptable and palatable, then we believe whoever will be leading or the group that will be leading will be working throughout this mandate. So the mandate is the most important right now. And then we can discuss the issues of the personalities moving on with this.
All right. Talking about the mandate, the Israeli side is extremely perturbed now that Hamas has agreed to this 20-point peace plan, more or less with some reservations. Do you feel, in your point of view, that the implementation of this 20-point peace plan is going to further weaken the current Israeli government led by Netanyahu, because many of his so-called allies have threatened to walk out if this peace plan is implemented?
Well, this will be an internal Israeli matter. But for me, the most important thing is for the Israeli aggression to stop. And that aggression to stop means forging or signing an agreement that would stop that. And today we have a golden opportunity on doing so. And it would be in the best interest of the Palestinians and the Israelis alike, because the Israelis wouldn't want to continue as an occupier state, as a state that is committing genocide on its neighbors and is attacking its neighbors, living in a state of violence and counter-violence the whole time. So I think it would be in the interest of the Israeli people and Israel at large.
Dr. Varsen, it's interesting that you say that it is in the interest of the Israeli people, because apparently the Israeli government does not see really eye to eye with what the Israeli people really want under the current circumstances. In the light of past ceasefire violations and the past, all the decisions that have been taken, and we all know that, let's not go there, but how confident is the Palestinian leadership that under the current situation, Israel can be a reliable partner in any future peace framework?
Look, we have been disappointed for many, many decades, and more so in the last 2 years, because Israelis at the last minute back off. So we don't know. It is very unpredictable, but if there is a framework that is very well crafted and there are worldwide guarantees and there are guarantors from several sides, and a process that is based on clear parameters, a clear framework, a clear end game at the end of the tunnel, and some accountability mechanisms, and people are monitored to see who violates the terms, then that's the way to move forward.
All right. Speaking of ways to move forward, Dr. Varsen, what kind of guarantees or mechanisms do the Palestinians want from the Israelis for this peace implementation, or the implementation of this peace process, to actually work?
I think, the time frames and the clear framework are very important, with milestones that everyone is complied with. If that is clearly crafted and delineated and people are held to account related to those terms, then that will work. Other than that, Israel will continue to say no for everything. No for anyone coming into Gaza, no for the PA, no for Hamas, yes for annexation, and yes for more killing and aggression and more violence.
Because we are seeing that violence, we are seeing that killing even now as we speak. Excellency, some of the points in this proposed peace framework, that this 20-point peace plan, prioritize security and regional stability. Now, how does Palestine ensure that these priorities do not come at the cost of its legitimate aspirations for sovereignty and dignity?
Well, yes, as you said, our end goal is end of occupation and sovereignty and the materialization of the state of Palestine on its rightful land that has been enshrined in international law. And today we have been recognized as a state of Palestine on 22% of historic Palestine by 160 countries. That's about 82% of the world. Today, Israel and everyone in the region and the world needs to understand that sovereignty, dignity are all interconnected with security and regional stability. It's a cycle. If one is absent, the other is absent. All of them lead to each other. And this is what we need to focus on.
All right, let's also talk about Pakistan because, of course, we are Pakistan TV here and we are talking to you, who's the foreign minister of the state of Palestine. Pakistan has consistently voiced solidarity with the Palestinians. We have always highlighted, pointed out and backed the Palestinian point of view on all fora possible, whether it be on the political level, whether it be at the humanitarian level or the diplomatic level. How do you see this relationship between Palestine and Pakistan evolving in this new phase of regional realignment?
Look, we are most grateful for Pakistan's stance and the stance of the government and the Pakistani people. Pakistan has been very supportive in all international fora on the question of Palestine. It has been very supportive in terms of humanitarian assistance, in terms of providing scholarships to our students. It has been very firm on the need for Palestinian unity. It has been firm on its stance on Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa Mosque, and so forth. So for that, we are most appreciative. But we always ask for more. As Palestinians, we expect always more from our brothers and sisters, and Pakistan is at the forefront of that kind of assistance. We would like to see an ongoing support, especially in terms of continuing the humanitarian assistance and in terms of helping people in Gaza steadfast and the rebuilding and the reconstruction of Gaza. And I know there are talks about, you're very interested in the education sector, talks about rebuilding the universities and so forth. So in a nutshell, our people, our government, our leadership appreciates Pakistan and the Pakistani people for their unconditional support.
All right, Dr. Fasreen, Pakistan and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia recently signed a defense pact. What impact do you feel a defense pact like that is going to be on the Middle East and on this continuous Israeli aggression towards countries in the Middle East, the last one being Qatar?
First of all, we appreciate the Saudi-Pakistani pact. This is very important. We hope that there will be further cooperation and coordination between all Islamic and Arab countries, because that will bring a much more bigger leverage vis-a-vis the region, the Islamic world, the Arab world, and especially when it comes to the question of Palestine. A lot can be deterred through this kind of solidarity, and we've seen this solidarity and the strength of this solidarity in the recent summit in Qatar, where it was very clear that an attack on one of the Arab and Islamic countries would mean an attack on all of them. So this is a big message to project to the world, and especially to an aggressor state such as Israel in the region.
You know, you talk of Israel being the aggressor state. We see the aggression happening even now as we speak. The number of Palestinians, as you yourself alluded to, is increasing with every passing hour. And every new day we hear of hundreds of Palestinians being killed or butchered, despite the fact that pressure is mounting on Israel under the current 20-point peace deal. There is also a growing sense that Palestine's struggle is now moving also towards other arenas like, say, the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court or the United Nations. In your point of view, how is your ministry, because of course you are heading the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Palestine, building this international momentum as far as accountability and recognition of your state is concerned?
Look, yes, the situation is extremely dire and it continues to be so even as the parties are speaking right now, because we see that the attacks and the aggression is continuing in Gaza. On the West Bank, violations are mounting and intensifying by the day. In Jerusalem, Judaization efforts are also on the rise. But despite all, we have to, keep the hope alive, and we have to keep, for now, humanitarian assistance as a priority, but never ever lose sight of the broader picture. The broader picture is an occupation that needs to end. So, on the diplomatic level, we are using whatever mechanisms we have internationally based on international law, uh, because today the game is first and foremost accountability, no impunity for a state that has enjoyed so much impunity for a long time. And it is that impunity that has enabled it to do whatever it's doing today in terms of war crimes. And we're seeking more recognitions. The recognitions are important because they strengthen the legal position of Palestine and send a very important message to Israel that your occupation cannot last forever and it needs to be dismantled and it will end. We are also working with, bilaterally with various states that have not recognized, and we are still working multilaterally because we have to use all multilateral forums that are available. The framework for us is what President Abbas has put forward on the nature of the state of Palestine that we envisage and how we can move forward in terms of modernizing the state, building it on principles of responsibility, accountability, transparency, democracy, and so forth. And we take as a frame of reference the New York Declaration, because today we have the power of that declaration that has been endorsed by two-thirds of the world and 82% of the world that has recognized Palestine. So we want these countries to have measures on the ground. It is only through measures on the ground that this occupier state will be deterred. And those measures include legal measures, include political measures, include economic measures, trade measures, and so forth.
All right. Excellency, also I'd like to know, you talked about aid. We all know the situation as far as the aid in Palestine, in Gaza is concerned, how that is deliberately being stopped, how people, and especially children and women, have been dying of starvation, how a recent report says that 1 in 5 children who are born dead because of the state of affairs of the mothers that they are in, because they can't eat properly. They don't have enough to eat, they don't have enough to drink, there is no clean water, there is no medicine as well, and the state of the hospitals is for everybody to see as well. In this current state comes the whole situation of the flotilla. The Global Sumud flotilla was the last of the flotilla that came here, and we all know how they were intercepted by the Israelis and now have been arrested. Some of them have been released, and we'll get to know how all of them and when all of them will be released. Will efforts such as this Global Sumud flotilla somehow affect the peace deal architecture?
It sends a very strong message that you have some 500 people from 45 countries coming through Sumud flotillas, which means steadfasting. And it sends a very big message that this siege on Gaza needs to be, it needs to break, and we need to come to the assistance of the people. But we know that that all of them were intercepted, and we expected that because Israel has done this in the past with other flotillas. Regardless, it is a strong message. It brings some sense of solidarity and some sense of hope to the people under siege. But it also sends a clear message that today, more than ever, we have to do something regarding the starving children. We have more than 500 people in Gaza that have died because of starvation. And we have some over 2,500 Palestinians that have died only queuing for food. These are starving people who were queuing for food, and they were killed in the queue lines. So the message is there, but we need to do a lot more to be able to break that siege.
Finally, Minister, I've taken a lot of your time, but my last question concerns a ray of hope in the form of these peace talks, of this 20-point peace deal. After so much loss, what message of hope or direction would you or could you offer to the Palestinian people and to the world community that continues to watch this tragedy unfold every passing hour of every passing day since the last 2 years?
I would say that it is shameful that we are witnessing crimes of this nature against humanity, against our people in Gaza in this day and age. This should never happen. We should comply with international law. We should stand up, all of us, for humanity. We should free the people in Gaza. We should free all Palestinians. It is long overdue that the Palestinians have been living under this belligerent occupation that needs to come to an end, because that end of occupation is the only factor that will bring peace and security for the region, for the Palestinians, for the Israelis, for the region, and probably for the world at large. Now is the time.
Now is the time, and I hope your message has gotten across to all those who are watching, including all of us in Pakistan. We will always support you. We'll always stand by your side with our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and wherever we can highlight the Palestinian issue, we will continue to do that, and we'll continue to work for peace. We'll continue to work in whichever direction that can bring solace to the people of Palestine. Thank you very much, Excellency Dr. Varsen, to have joined us and to have given us an exclusive as to what is exactly happening as we speak and what are the expectations of your state from the world at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Varsen Shahin, the Palestinian Minister for Foreign Affairs, joining us in this exclusive on Pakistan TV, telling us about the situation in which Palestine is, what is the need that the Palestinians are asking from the world, and how should the world now move forward. The 20-point peace plan is there. The talks will be happening in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, as we speak. What would be the outcome is extremely important for peace in the world to somehow achieve some kind of culmination. As the world debates this peace on paper, ladies and gentlemen, the people of Palestine continue to live their daily cost with courage, faith, and unbroken spirit. For Pakistan, our bond with the Palestinian people will always continue to be strong, and it has never been about politics alone. It's about shared principles of justice, dignity, and the right to live free on one's own land. This ends this segment. We'll be back after a short break. Stay tuned. And now let's take you to South Asia. The leading story when it comes to South Asia are these assertions, these threats, these so-called empty threats that are being made by the Indian chiefs, the Indian leadership as far as Pakistan is concerned. It seems as if they haven't learned their lesson from what happened a couple of months back when Pakistan reacted to their assumptions to kind of insert or exert their hegemonic designs in this region. Pakistan showed them and shown the world who was a superior nation. More in the following report.
Pakistan's military has issued a strong warning to India, condemning recent provocative and jingoistic remarks by senior Indian security officials. The Pakistan Army warned that any future conflict between the two nuclear-armed states could lead to cataclysmic devastation. In a statement released by military's media wing, Inter-Services Public Relations, the Pakistan Army said such rhetoric reflects New Delhi's renewed attempt to manufacture arbitrary pretexts for aggression, warning that these actions could have serious consequences for peace and stability in South Asia. Rejecting Indian Air Force Chief Omar Singh's unsubstantiated claims of shooting down Pakistani fighter jets, the ISPR reminded New Delhi of the wreckage of its own aircraft and the wrath of Pakistan's long-range vectors during the earlier clash in May. The statement stressed that Pakistan's pursuit of peace must never be mistaken for weakness and made clear the country shall not hold back. It will resolutely respond without any qualms or restraint if provoked again. The ISPR warned that those seeking to impose a new normal of aggression must understand that Pakistan has already set its own new normal of response that is swift, decisive, and destructive. The Pakistan military said this time they shall shatter the myth of geographic immunity by striking the farthest reaches of Indian territory. The statement concluded with a stark warning. Any attempt to erase Pakistan from the map would only result in mutual erasure, as Pakistan's forces and people stand fully prepared to defend every inch of the homeland with unmatched resolve.
Air Marshal Aamir Masood, defense analyst, joins us online. Thank you very much, boss, to have joined us. Pleasure to always talk to you when it comes to defense matters. I'll begin with this saber rattling that India has been engaged into since the last few weeks, or rather last few months, since it saw its defeat on the air field and Pakistan showing its air superiority after the recent conflict. Doesn't this expose, this saber rattling, the frustration that the Indian authorities, whether it be the military leadership or their political leadership, have as far as the battlefield setbacks and global isolation of India is concerned, rather than Pakistan's actions? What's your take on that?
Thank you very much, Umar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Exactly. I mean, it's a reflection of, I would say, two important aspects. First is the frustration which their leadership has, both political and military leadership, after what devastation, embarrassment they suffered during Operation Sindoor, and the myth which was created of being the fourth most powerful military and the growing economy, that was all destroyed, and it came down along with many of the Rafales which were destroyed by Pakistan Air Force. And secondly, I think this is also to do with a sort of messaging their public, and especially those junior officers in the armed forces who must be suffering from serious setbacks, demoralization, and demotivation, that Indian Sindoor is still continuing, and they will give a befitting sort of response to the Pakistan. And I mean, to give statements like, to remove a country from the map of the world is something which is too immature, which shows the mindset of both the political and the military leadership, and how they would like to engage their neighbors, and how much respect they have, mutual respect they have for the neighbors. I mean, being a nuclear country and having a nuclear neighbor, and warning a nuclear neighbor whose, I think, nuclear arsenals, if not better, are much more potent than their own. They would wipe out their neighbor from the geography. That's something which is unprecedented. It's I haven't seen such a statement coming from such a senior leadership, and this seriously reflects their mindset. And I personally think it should not be taken very seriously, because their attitude, their way of working, their whole narrative, and their whole populist sort of support is based on anti-Pakistani slogans, aggression against Pakistan, like "Modi hai to mumkin hai," from Pulwama till Pahalgam. If you see throughout, they have been working just on the narrative rather than working on their own public, rather than working on mutual sort of trade, or working on stabilizing the situation, or working for peace within and peace with the neighbors. They have been working on creating such rhetoric, such slogans, and such war hysteria between the neighbors. I mean, a region of more than 1.5 billion people, who are 80% of them are living not, in a comfort where they don't have the basic amenities. So they should be thinking something else. So such a rhetoric, such a war sloganeering is something which is, I personally think, very serious. And as I mentioned in your last program also, that India and Pakistan had previously been living in a situation of no war, no peace. And now, after May, it's going to be more war and less peace. My
I
personal
understand.
take on this is, my
I
personal
totally,
take on this
yes, yes. Yes, go ahead, sir.
yeah, please. My personal take on this, Umar, is that they may be carrying out some sort of deception. Also, they talk about two front war. They talk about restraint. I mean, I think the restraint has been from our side so much that they have been given extra leverage. In Pulwama, also, once we had the complete control of air in the first 1 hour, we could have, created havoc against their air force. Same was the case once they came and hit 10 of our targets. And as as deep as 150 kilometers, and we were able to respond so professionally, so ferociously, that we were able to knock down their 7 jets in first 1 hour, and we had the complete control of air, and their jets couldn't fly for next 2 days. We could have really put them and paralyzed them like Israel did against the Arabs by knocking down 400 of their jets, and they are still never been able to stand on their feet or fly against them. So we could have created that sort of escalation to de-escalate. And I think next time, if that sort of aggression is there from them, our Air Force, our armed forces will respond in that, decapacitating manner,
All right.
which is going to be
Amir Masood Saab, Amir
asymmetric.
Masood Saab, you talk of, next time, when you look at the statements that come from the Indian Army Chief or the Indian Air Chief, it looks as if they are looking for a next time in the very near future. When the Army Chief talks of no restraint, the Air Chief gives false statements on the number of aircrafts that they down, which is, hysterical to say the least. Doesn't these statements also reveal a dangerous culture of war hysteria that is being prepped up by the Indian leadership?
Well, that has been part of their narrative since BJP has been in power. And that is how they have been winning elections, unfortunately, by creating sentiments against Pakistan. And you can see the weaponization of water, the weaponization of cricket and the sports, and the things which you could never have thought of. That they have got so much of venom, so much, hate against us, that they only believe in zero-sum game, and they never believe with neighbors to have a win-win sort of situation. Now, what I personally feel, for future is that they don't have the strength, or there hasn't been significant increase in their capability in last 5, 6 months, that they could in any way damage or have some sort of, success against Pakistan military if they come steel versus steel. So they would go for irregular warfare, which they are already continuing. You can see the increase in terrorist attack and their proxies being used in Balochistan and in to Afghanistan, towards our western border, and now towards the Kashmir also. So they are trying to bleed us through thousand cuts, and they had been a little bit successful in that area. And this is where I think we have to concentrate more. And I foresee that in future also they would like to go for some sort of unconventional, irregular means, like the one which Ukraine had tried very successfully against Russia by positioning drone trucks 2,000 kilometers inside, and bombing their destroying their strategic bombers, etc. So such type of means and methods which they will take from Israel, where they have a very strong collaboration with them. So these are the area, those are the vulnerable points, and especially our high value assets, our bases, our command and control centers. We have to be very particular about those things where they may be able to give some sort of damage to us, because they have realized in last 5 years, after Pulwama, after Pahalgam, after Sindoor, that they cannot go steel versus steel, or they cannot go in a kinetic manner or take on Pakistan, whether on ground or in the air. So that is the areas where their cunning leaders and their cunning leadership will try to damage Pakistan, or create some sort of problems for us, create some anarchy or instability within our country. These are the areas we have to be very cognizant of, and we try to protect ourselves.
In this whole atmosphere of India using the Pakistan card whenever elections are near, this time it's in the elections in Bihar, and they are looking for any avenue whatsoever to somehow use this card once again. But with a strong statement that the ISP has recently released, how cautious will India be now?
Well, I think that's a very good statement. And I'd just like to, share with you also that the Pakistan would not hesitate to respond decisively and without restraint in the event of renewed hostilities. And also said that the new posture of response had been established, one that is characterized as swift, decisive, and destructive. The military also dismissed what it called India's long record of invoking a victim card or a victim narrative. That is very important. We should not be apologetic And we should not let India play this victim card, which they have always been playing against Pakistan. For whatever rhyme or reason, whatever incidents that happens within India of terrorism or any attack, they always blame Pakistan and they say that they are going to give lesson to Pakistan. That sort of thing, that new norm has to end for once and for all. And the only way to finish or to end this sort of narrative is that we have to be more proactive, both diplomatically and militarily. Next
All right.
time,
So we
if
have to be
we
more
have some sort
proactive.
of
Aamir Masood Saab, we're a bit short of time. I'm really sorry to cut you right here because I really wanted to know and understand more from where you were coming from. Nevertheless, this will be for next time. Thank you very much, Marshal Aamir Masood Saab, defense analyst, to have joined us and to have discussed this issue as far as, Indian hegemonic designs, let's put it that way, and the way that India has been more or less moving towards that. But of course, as Pakistan has very aptly shown a few weeks back on how superior it is as far as countering any of its designs, and Pakistan's armed forces continue to be that ready as well for any future strategy from the Indian side if and when it comes. Moving on to the West. Now, Democrats are refusing to give in their demands for continued government healthcare subsidies in the budget. What does that mean? That means that the current shutdown of the U.S. government continues. Today is day 6 of that U.S. government shutdown as well. And of course, the impact is enormous. The impact is on the economy, the impact is on the other sectors, and a lot of analysts are also saying that the current U.S. government might use this to take certain other important measures that they deem are important for the future of the U.S. as well. We've been joined by Muhammad Umar, international political analyst, way from the U.S. Umar, thank you very much to have joined us. You're always there for us whenever we have something interesting or important to talk from the U.S. perspective. President Donald Trump's shutdown has gone from furloughs to outright firings, turning a budget fight into a full-blown jobs crisis. What's your take on that?
So, Omar, thank you for having me. We're currently at that dangerous point. The firings haven't come into place yet. There have been requests from different parts of the administration to build and propose memos of what reduction in workforce might look like. um, we're at a very dangerous threshold right now, Omar, because as you mentioned, furloughs are painful, but firings are not reversible. It's very, very hard. Firings are more structural, and if they go through, that means we're dismantling our capability, losing institutional memory, and sending a signal that public service is disposable, which is very, very hard to walk back from.
All right, Umar, are millions of Americans now paying the price for Washington's power game over Obamacare subsidies?
Absolutely, Umar. You cannot make healthcare a bargaining chip. And that is exactly what they're doing right now. They're playing with the lives of millions of Americans, many of those Americans who depend on those subsidies. And when you take them away, suddenly they're going to see premium spikes, which means that their insurance, their healthcare coverage gaps will appear, that it will cost more. And when you have somebody in your home that is going through an illness, you already are stressed out. Now you're adding financial stress that follows that. These political ripples go straight into every American household. And what the government needs to do now is they need to reopen government first and then negotiate health policy responsibly, not do what they're doing, which is holding the citizens hostage.
Umar, final question. What happens the key economic data, for example, jobs, for example, inflation or growth, all grow dark at once?
Omar, this is really tough. We depend on data to make decisions. The government depends on this data. The private industry depends on this data. When you essentially go dark, we lose our compass. Investors, business leaders, policymakers, they cannot predict, they cannot forecast. And what ends up happening is that you have volatility, you have delay, you have loss of confidence. And in a fragile economy, a fragile global economy that we're facing right now, flying blind is the worst possible posture you can have.
All right, thank you very much, Omar, to have joined us. That was Muhammad, analyst, joining us all the way from the US, giving us the latest information as far as the US government shutdown that has entered its 6th day is concerned. That brings us to the end of today's Beyond Borders. It was an interesting show. We had different viewpoints from across the world brought to you. As we say, we bring you a world without boundaries or borders, and we'll continue to do that in our future shows as well. Till tomorrow, Allah Hafiz.